Kings insider, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, James Ham, in the building.
What's up, friends?
James.
What's up, Ham? How you doing?
Kings lost
Good.
last night.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know what you're talking about. I thought they won.
Man.
Tough.
Good. Yeah, it was not. Jesse and I have been trying to find silver linings from each game. I just going through and like, okay, what? Because this is about, again, nobody's under the illusion that anything that's happening this year is about this year. It's all about the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a really hard time finding something from last night that is like, wow, thumbs up. That was a good thing that happened.
Yeah, I think, I talked to Damon and Kenny yesterday about this. When you're writing, like I do for every game, I write 6 quick thoughts. You're trying to pull out sort of the best of what's happening, right? And sometimes the worst of what's happening. I mean, you have to mention that, the team shot 24% from the field in the first quarter and 34% for the entire game. I mean, this was just an embarrassment of a shooting performance. But I think if there was a silver lining to last night's game, which was their 14th consecutive loss, it was that Devin Carter got a start for the first time. And, while I don't think he ran the offense, and I think that part of the reason why the team struggled so badly to score easy buckets and to get easy buckets was because they had no one running the offense, whatever the offense is, but still like getting into sets and actually going through the motions and trying to get good looks for your teammates. He's just not a point guard, and that's okay. But I did think, him having a career high 19 points, him actually, having 5 rebounds, 4 assists, whatever it was, he was a silver lining. And, it wasn't like a horrible game for him. It wasn't just some unbelievable game, but at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for like these little moments that people have in a season like this.
You talking about Devin Carter not being a point guard, and then we see Nate take about 16 shots. You think this development is good for the Kings in the sense where it's like, are they in the right roles, or does it feel like they're just getting NBA minutes and that's their development right now?
Yeah, I think it's different than NBA minutes, Jesse. I think for me, if they were just playing 30 minutes, that's fine. But that's really not, again, if you were to put Nate Clifford out there with 4 other starters, the regular everyday starters, then Nate Clifford's the 5th option. Like he's not getting any actual burn. He's just doing cardio. And I think what we're seeing right now is that, like, look, Nate Clifford has to step up. You can't, if you look at his last 3 games, he had 30 points, he had 10 points, he had 6 points. That feels like the last 3 seasons of Kings basketball, going from 46 wins to 40 to 12.
Right.
It's like, hey, man, you need to, like, this whole cardiogram thing that you're doing, it has to level out. And that's part of learning the pro game. It's part of showing up every night and understanding that, 0 for 6, 1 for 15, whatever it was. Like, you've got to be better. You've got to hit your shots. And when your shots aren't falling, you got to get to the free throw line. You've got to do something different that actually impacts the game. And so I think there is a lot of growth here. There is a lot of room for growth, but also it's more than just minutes at this point. It's opportunity to be a second or third option for some of these guys that may never get that opportunity ever again. And you need them to seize on that and to like grab the reins here and go, okay, look, even if it's for 5 games, I'm getting an opportunity to shoot 16 times or 15 times, and I've got to continue to get better as a player. So I do think that it's not just opportunity. It's not just cardio for some of them. It's about actually having more responsibility, and that's a good thing. That's how you grow.
Talking with James Hammer, Kings insider, host of the Locked On Kings podcast. Jesse asked a really good question last night, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on where you land on this, because I think you and I have differing thoughts or differing opinions on Keegan Murray and his ceiling as a player.
Of course.
Where do you think he kind of fits into whatever the future of this team is, knowing that it might be 3, 4, 5 years before they're playing in competitive basketball games again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the toughest thing, right? Like if you're Keegan Murray, like everybody else is like, we talk about it all the time, sort of like in a different tone. It's like, well, you got another year, Zach Levine. Well, you only got one more year to be here, Zach. That's a different tone, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to be here for another year. Or, hey man, one more year and you're out. Again, you look at half the roster; they're either on expiring contracts or minimum deals. Maybe Domas is looking around and saying, man, do I really have to do this for 2 more years? Or Malik is saying, I want to be here in Sacramento, but do I really want to play for this team for 2 years? But when you're Keegan Murray and you're looking that, your extension doesn't kick in until next year and you're stuck here for 5 at 140, it's like, hey, the money's fine. That's great. Being independently wealthy and having generational wealth for you and your family. And, he's a smart kid. He's going to be able to turn that money into more money. But also the reality that you're going to be the centerpiece of a complete rebuild. That's one way to look at it. Like, you're stuck. The other way to look at it is that when I expect that when he comes back after the All-Star break, that it's his show. And you're going to hand the keys to him and say, hey, look, man, you got 26 games here. Go out there and show us what we think you can be and what you think you can be, so we have a much better idea of what we're going into this summer and what we're going into the year after that. And I want to see him have like the Cam Johnson moment where it's like, hey, here's 19.4 points per game. I can do it. Go out there and do it. And, we've got to stop thinking about Keegan in some sort of, view that something he can be. He actually has to be what it is that he's going to be. And I think getting a 26 game run where you're the primary or you're the number 2, that's great. That's what this needs to be about. And let the other guys fall into place behind him. Again, if we're going to go through this, let Keegan shoot 16 to 20 times a game. Let Neat Clifford shoot 12 to 16 times a game. Let some of these, Max Reynaud, get 12 shots every single game. Let these guys prove that they can do this, and not just prove to the league, but prove to themselves that they can actually be that player at this level. And maybe you get something positive out of this.
Keegan's got his deal coming up, so he's probably part of this group. But is there anyone that they like the Kings feel like tied to, where it's like, yes, this player is part of our core, or are they just like in evaluation mode with everything on the roster right now? Like, do they view Neek as like a potential starting 3 at one point, or like, do they have like set roles that they're seeing for these guys, or just, like I said, it's all just evaluation mode right now?
No, I definitely think that they look at Max and Dylan as, future rotational players. And they look at Neat Clifford the same way. Scott Perry had conversations with him directly, and he believes that they found 3 rotational players in this year's draft. This year's draft process, because Dylan Cardwell, of course, didn't go in the draft. But when you look at the group, those 3, and then you throw in Keegan Murray, all of a sudden now you're up to 4. Now, where do we go from here? And how do you fill in pieces around those players? How do you get the better player that makes it all fit together? There's a lot to this, which is why again, being the worst team in the NBA this season isn't a bad idea. This is a great draft, and that's how this team is going to get better. They're going to get better through the draft, and then again, you have this moment here where you can look at this group and say, okay, what do they need, and how do we attack that this offseason and next offseason? It might be that 1 or 2 of these guys that you have around that as of right now don't look like they're going to be long-term pieces for this team, but they become long-term pieces because, again, maybe you look out in the draft, you get the 1st or 2nd pick, and maybe there's a player on your roster that doesn't look right with the group you have right now, but he looks right with that player and looks right with that player alongside of a player like Keegan Murray. And so you're always trying to adjust your thinking about, what's next and how you build this thing. But it's a process, and Scott Perry took on a job that I don't think many other general managers would have. It's ugly. This is a tear down and rebuild for an owner that doesn't believe in tear downs and rebuilds. So it's got to be a retool or a rebuild at the same time, and it's just very, very fine line to walk.
You said that the worst record in the league might not be the worst thing for the Kings, just given, hey, you might land a top pick and things like that. What does that mean for Doug Christie, though?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
does
good
that
question.
does that hurt him in any way?
I think the key here in the last 26 games is how does Doug manage the young players? Because at this point, it's become sort of like, hey, look, I don't know what's going on with the tendon in Zach Levine's pinky. Like whatever. I don't expect him to play. I don't expect him to play very much. I also expect a lot of these veterans that maybe have voiced their displeasure or don't want to be there to not be there. Like, hey, go ahead and take a month, and we're gonna get through this without you because you're not part of what the plan is. I think we need to see what Doug does with these young players. And up until the last two games, I honestly thought the team was playing much better and a better brand of basketball. And actually, you can see the offense and some of the defensive ideas with the young players playing a lot more. For whatever reason, these veterans just like they're freelancing and not playing team basketball, and it's been like an epic struggle the entire year to get them to play together and be good teammates for each other and support each other the right way. But when the young guys come in, they're doing that. It's just they don't have the talent. And, as of right now, the talent, the experience, which is part of the talent level, they just need more experience. And I think eventually, this group will get a few wins and you'll see a little bit better basketball. But I didn't hate watching the game on Friday against the Clippers or Saturday against the Cavs.
Sure.
Hated the last two games. It just wasn't fun to watch at all, where a team comes out there and realistically looks like they're not ready to play. And that's going to happen sometimes when you're only playing young players. And Doug McDermott,
Mhm.
DeMar DeRozan, Doug McDermott. So it's tough.
It feels like, as we talk with our Kings insider, James Ham, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, you can find that wherever you get your podcast and also on YouTube. It feels like, though, we're reaching the point where at 14 consecutive losses, and the game against the Clippers, the game against the Cavs, like that was really fun. Like that's the ideal version of what we call tanking, right? It's you play well, you get some good performances from Nate Clifford and Max Reno and Dylan Cardwell, like 2 thumbs up. You lose only by a couple of close games. But I think the reality of losing 14 in a row is you reach a point where it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you don't go into a game going, hey, we got to snap our losing streak. You go into a game going, hey, we can't snap our losing streak. That would be the worry for me, like long term. If we always talked about this with like Washington, like that stench of losing just kind of lingers. That would be, I think, my greatest concern, like long term, coming out of this year.
Yeah, it's what Scott Perry called institutionalizing losing.
Yeah.
Like making it part of the fabric of your organization. And that's always a dangerous idea. Look, when you're going out there and your starting lineup is Devin Carter and Nick Clifford and Precious Achua and Max Reno and DeMar DeRozan, like that's not going to win at the NBA level. Not today. Like 2 years from now, with someone other than DeMar DeRozan, maybe you've grown enough and you're good enough that you can withstand that. But that's just not easy to go out there and play. So I do think that you're trying to avoid, you're right, like the stench of losing and all that. But you're also going out there with a spirit that, like, look, we're young, we're learning. And I think we've seen that more than anything with the young players. Like there is a good spirit about them. And hey, I'll keep saying this because, again, I think I've been tough on DeMar DeRozan and just his brand of basketball. Like he's been such a pro, man. The guy's shown up every single night and he wants to play, and he has played in every single game this season. And when you're seeing this list come out of, the injury report that's 6 or 7 guys, uh, that's and he's not on it. It just continues to show you that he's a pro and then he's going to be part of what's happening. And the other thing, he's playing to the young players. You can see it. He's trying to make them better. He's trying to help. And then sometimes it's like, hey, I've got to score, so we're not going to get boat raced here again. And so I like what he's doing. But overall, this is it's a horrible mess to watch.
You don't ever expect to be the worst team in the league, but is there any aspect of like this being the year one for Scott Perry, where it's kind of like, all right, yeah, this is kind of part of the plan. Like you kind of expected it to be a little bit rough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone thought it would be this rough. You
Sure.
know, they signed Dennis Schroeder, sort of chasing that one last bump. You know, they were
Mhm.
trying to do the death by mid-level thing. And,
Mhm.
again, they got out from underneath the contract. It cost him Keon Ellis, but it's something that teams do, when it's just usually you're looking at like a 6-year playoff run, and then the 7th and 8th years, they're not good enough. But they keep adding players thinking that that might be the piece that gets you back into the game. And this just happened way quicker, like, than anyone expected. So, I definitely think where we're at right now, it's, like climbing out of this whole trying to get better. It's difficult, but also that, like, no one expected this to be this horrible coming in. And, Scott Perry, would love to have flipped the entire roster on its head at the trade deadline, but sometimes your players aren't good enough. They don't have enough value around the league to do that.
Sure.
And so they're just stuck in sort of this perpetual cycle here of trying to get better, but only being able to focus on young players to accomplish that.
James Hammer, Kings Insider. Last thing here for you. I was wondering last night if there was a person maybe for Utah in their front office or whatever who was just pissed at how the game was going, which led us down a road of how do you think Scott Perry, when he's watching games and he's watching the Kings lose 13, 14 in a row, losing to the 14-win Pelicans, losing to the 16-win Jazz, however many, a bad Jazz team that's also trying to lose games. Do you think he's watching like, hey, this is great? Or is there a level of frustration that builds up there for him too? Do you, again, not expecting you to get in the guy's head, but just your feel for it.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about it last week about how, he wants Doug Christie to win as many games as he can down the stretch. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, like, there's a reality to this. And as a general manager, you just can't go out there and say, man, Doug's doing a great job losing every single game. You do worry about that, and like you have conversations with your team, with Doug Christie, with his coaching staff, but also with the team as a whole. And there was a conversation that was had here where Scott Perry did pull the entire team into a room, and they had a conversation about what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an easy conversation. And some players, throw their hands up, and it's like, for anyone who throws their hands up and says, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening. How could we get to this point where, I'm getting benched?" It's like, well, because you were on the court and they're 12-44. So, like, you got your opportunity. And to be honest, you weren't good enough and the team wasn't good enough. And so this is what happens when you perform that way. And so there is sort of a cause and effect here. At the same time, H.E. Devonso was in the building last night. He was sitting courtside with his dad. Like, that's what you're playing for. If you needed a reminder, he showed up and said, "Hey, look, you remember me? Like, this is why you're doing
Jersey.
this. Yeah, this is why you're being bad right now. You're being bad, so you might have an opportunity to find a superstar that helps you turn your entire franchise around." And it doesn't feel good. It's, again, they've tied the all-time franchise record with 14 straight losses. And it dates back to like 59-60 and 71-72 when they were the Cincinnati Royals. But like at some point, this team will win a game or two, and everything will feel a little bit better. But it shouldn't feel better. Like, they have a 212 win percentage. 212. Like, they're on pace to win 17 and a half games. Like, this is by far the worst team I've ever covered. And the only other team I could come up with that was even remotely close was like the 2007-8 Kings that won 8-9, that won 17 games. That they went into the All-Star break at 11-43. So yeah, this is an epically bad team. And, I don't know that that's a bad thing, to be honest with you.
He's James Ham. You can hear him with D'Lo and KC Mondays and Wednesdays. You can hear him every single day at the Locked On Kings podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Sacramento one, not the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to get into a hockey podcast. But James Ham does a great job covering the Kings. He's our Kings insider. James, thanks so much for dropping in, man.
See you guys.
Appreciate you, Ham.
See you. James Ham.